Good morning, folks. Ann here. Welcome back to my channel. And I have some more new subscribers. Let me do a quick recap. I am approaching 68 years old. I was 70 pounds overweight at my highest, which was 254. I'm 5'9". I started this diet on March 22nd of this year. And the first month I was reducing my carbs, and for this last month I've been into ketosis. So I don't know if you've seen, I know some of you may have seen yesterday's video where I was talking about stress causing weight gain, being under stress. And now I know today is my walking video, folks, and it's cold out there. It's in the 40s and it's raining. I just took some trash out. It's raining, and I decided that I wanted to share this with you because this is important, and it might, you a lot of you might relate to this. Sorry, sorry. I think my glasses are blurry. But this is what I wanted to tell you. Now, yesterday, I said that a lot of us might have some traumatic experiences, and that might be why we gained weight and started eating a lot in the first place. Well, I was thinking about that, because I mentioned that I had traumatic experiences too. So I wanted to share this with you because this took a big toll on me. And I'm not going to blame it all on this, but because I always loved to eat, even when I was a teenager, I always loved to eat. 2 hot dogs wasn't enough. I wanted 4. And that was when I was skinny and 16 years old. But so this is now I know in quite a few videos ago I mentioned that I was in the military when I was younger, and from there I worked in a laboratory, and then when I came up here to upstate New York, I got into the prison system, and I was working as a payroll officer. Well, I got tired of being in an office, so a job came up in the local jail, and I applied for it as a correction officer. And I got the job, and I was with the job for about 15 years. That was my last job, and I retired before I hit the 25-year mark because of my back. It was getting more and more difficult climbing stairs, but working as a correction officer, I worked with the men and the women. I started out just with the women for quite a few years, maybe 10 years before they started having the female COs working the male units. So for the first 10 years, I strictly was with a group of women. There were 2 units. One were for those that first came in. They were in cells before for a certain amount of time, and then they would move over to the other unit, unless there was a different issue going on. And they were better. We could take better care of them when they were in the unit with the cells. The other unit was just a big open area. But one particular night, my sergeant came down and he gave me a break. And when I took a break, I was either going to the kitchen or I was going up to the control room to visit with some of the other officers. And it was about 7:30 at night, and I'm standing in the control room talking to the other officers, and we all hear assistance in South Housing. That was the name of my unit, South Housing. Well, we all went running. There must have been about 10 of us that went running down to the unit. And I remember walking through the door, all of us walking in and seeing this young lady hanging from the bars. And she had tied 2 bras around her neck, and she was just swaying. And I saw the sergeant grabbed hold of her and lifted her up to take the pressure. And I'm sorry if this story is upsetting any of you, because I know, the ending of this story explains how much it's upset me. So, so they got the knife, cut her down, and they cut her off of there. Now, this young lady, she was 17 years old, All she had was a 12-day sentence. It wasn't like she was going away for life, but she had been on drugs. And unfortunately, I think she's still out here after all these years, out back and forth into the jail system. She never went away to prison because she didn't have such a big. I don't even remember her charge, but it wasn't that serious. Um, Maybe she shoplifted or something, try to get drug money. I'm not. I'm not sure. The women in there were not serious offenders. They would just they hurt themselves most of the time. So this young lady was cut down, and after things quieted down through the next few weeks, I would let her come out and talk to me at the desk, at the guard's desk outside the unit where nobody else would hear. And she shared things with me, and you know, I could understand. It was the drugs. It was all about the drugs because the second time she came in, she got out that time after the 12-day sentence. I think it was 12 days. And she came back. She came in and out all the time. But when she came back the next time, she was in there for 6 months. And so what happened was they put her on all the medication to help her get off of the drugs. And gradually, this young lady transformed before my eyes. I mean, she went from looking terrible and being so unhappy. And when she started, I could see it. I could see it. Day by day, I could see the improvement in her, how her spirits started lifting to be off these drugs. And it wasn't just her. Through the years, most of them, I watched the transformation that they had when they got off these drugs and or drinking or now a lot of people don't go to jail for being overweight. So I didn't have any, you know, problems like that. It was the drugs or the drinking that was causing them to do what they were doing and getting in a little bit of trouble. But when they come off those drugs, the majority of them, I was always amazed of what, nice, wonderful people that they were. Those drugs made them something that they were not. That wasn't them at all with those drugs. They just and I always told them because I let them come out and talk to me. I tried to talk to those ladies, and what was I gonna say? But they knew that they had drug problems, but they would end up right back again. But anyway, so that was very traumatic to see that because every year we had the suicide prevention screening. We had to take that class every year. So that was always fresh in my mind. And I was very happy that I wasn't the one that was sitting at that officer's desk and that happened. And I was the one that spotted her. And God forbid, what if I would have been sitting there and and I didn't see it and this young lady died? I would have lived with that forever. So a lot of these jobs that these officer jobs and the nursing jobs, and there's so many jobs out there that are so stressful. But I had to go away for some training down to Texas, and just right after that happened, and I tell you, every night they taught us in suicide screening that if you see something like that, that's going to stick with you for a while. And I tell you, for 6 months, well, mostly for the first 2 months, when I laid down to close my eyes, I could see that young lady hanging there. And that was horrible. That was just horrible. Even though she survived, they cut her down and they had caught her just in time. She didn't pass out. They cut her down and she walked out of there down to the medical unit. So that was a happy ending to that story as far as her being able to kill herself. And so, but that sticks with people that see that. That's what they train us. They say if you ever see it, it's that's all part of it. And I think that did stick with me. And I think, and I'm not, and I don't mean to blame this job on my eating because, like I said, I love to eat. I just always love to eat. But this did the stress that I would get leaving work. This, and go home and eat, it would numb it. Like I talked about, that food numbing our feelings and everything. Eating just would comfort me, and I would numb that. And that happened, throughout my whole time there. There was, yeah, not every day is bad, but another time I was sitting in the control room, and I had to monitor every unit. And there was about, God, how many units were there? About 20 units in the jail, in the local jail. And we all took turns. We had our share. All of us officers had to take turns sitting in the control room and watching those cameras and opening all the doors for the other officers. Because we didn't use keys, it all had to be done remotely. So you had to. There had to been 20 cameras that surrounded me there in the control room, and I just so happened to look at one of them in the mail unit, and thank God I did, because um, I saw they in the mail unit they would have the bars so that the men can do the pull ups, which I always thought was not a good thing to have those bars in there. Well, sure enough, I'm looking at the camera, and there's a guy hanging from the bar. So I call assistance, and everybody goes running down. The nurse happened to be on duty. They cut him down, and that was another vision that stuck in my head, to see him hanging there, even though I was just watching it on TV. So these people that attempted suicide end up getting on a suicide watch, where an officer has to watch them constantly, with no breaks, watching the person that they don't go ahead and, because in a jail they could figure it out. They know how to do it. I mean, look at this young lady using two bars. There's stories about men tying sheets around their neck and just strangling themselves just by hanging off their bunk. So I mean, you really got to pay attention to them. But it causes stress. It just causes stress, and that was the reason that I think I really did start eating a lot more during that time, and being and gaining the weight. That was taking away my ability to do my job. The more food that I was eating, I was getting heavy. I was getting less and less able to do my job. It was hurting to climb the stairs. I mean, what if I would have had to run and help somebody? I would be slow. And I knew it, and I was getting older, and I was thinking, I'm not helping anything here and being in this condition. Now I remember standing in the hallway because I had to guard somebody that was an inmate that was had a lawyer there, and they talked for 2 hours, and I stood there and my back was hurting. And finally, when the lawyer left, I ran into the bathroom to sit down on the toilet. And I remember passing the woman that was working to control myself, and then tears came to my eyes. I can't do this anymore. It was too much. So when you reach that point, now some people could work right into their old age because they're healthy, and they can do the job. They take good care of themselves. But I let myself go, and the stress was eating at me. And they say that the cortisol just releases, and that's what causes the belly fat, and that's where all my fat is in my belly. So I think I'm really into that stress thing that causes it. Does cause it a lot, and there's got to be an outlet that you could have. Now, if I would have been smart, and which I did tell you that I used to go walking with a guy that worked at the jail with me, and I was doing good for a while. I did good for a while, and that helped me tremendously getting rid of that stress. Doing my walking and my jogging. I used to like to jog because I was younger then. I didn't have back problems till I fell off that chair. So all these people that work in law enforcement, the officers that work out on the streets, the nurses, the paramedics, all these people that are first responders, they have a very stressful job unless they're taking care of it and they're eating right and they're getting their exercise, maybe meditation or whatever. If I would have kept all of that up, I might have been better. But having the back problem, that really, that caused big problems for me. That's when I had to slow down. So I recommend exercise. Even, I say it all the time. It reduces the stress. So I wanted to share that with you folks. And another incident that sticks with me on my mind and is was this one girl. She was in one of the units, the one with the cell blocks, and they were delivering the food. Now we have to open the gate so that they could get their food. And this girl came running out of there, approached another girl that was sitting in the day area, and started kicking her as hard as she could in the ribs. Now, I was the one on duty, and I was on the radio, assistance in self housing, and I couldn't wait at that point. Because they teach us to wait until the assistance comes, but I thought that girl was going to die, the one that was getting kicked in the ribs. So I ran in there, and I took that girl off of her, pulled her away, and then the rest of the guys came running, and we put her back in her cell. Well, a day or two later, that girl that was the brutal girl, she said, and this actually made me feel good. She said to me, she said, "Ann, if it wouldn't have been you out there, somebody would have been taken down," which meant that she would have went on an officer. She was a bad girl. She was a tough girl. No, no, I can't say she was a bad girl. I don't know her story, but she was a tough girl, and she would have she would have taken me out. I don't Even when I was in my best of shape, she would have taken me out. Like I said, we didn't carry guns or nothing in there, or nothing really to defend ourselves. So, and it actually made me feel good because I always was one not to judge, and I like to talk to these women because I thought that's what they needed. They had a terrible addiction, or, you know, yeah, there's a lot of bad. I wasn't naive to the fact, this girl might stab me in the throat if she had a chance. I wasn't naive to that, but I didn't think it hurt to be able to talk and try to console, or point somebody in the right direction. I didn't think that hurt one bit, and all of them, I never most of them, 99% of those women that came into that jail, all treated with me respect. They treated me with respect, and I think that's because I treated them with respect. You get what you give. We had new officers that were, in fact, there were a couple really, and some people, you know, officers, they all get a bad rap because of the few, or even there was a couple that shouldn't be in that job. They didn't know how to talk to other individuals. And communication is the first thing that you want to do before it escalates. And some officers, the very few, did not know how to do that. They thought they had to be tough in order to keep things in line. And they give a bad rap to all the others that are good correction officers. I thought I was a good correction officer. I treated everybody firmly, fairly, and consistently. I didn't have favorites or anything like that. I want to tell you one more story. It's about a woman that came out. I was working the night shift at that time, and a young lady come out, and she said, "Ann, I want to kill myself. I want to put my head in that toilet bowl." And she was you could tell she was a nice person and lovely lady. She had mental issues. She had some mental issues. And I talked to her the best that I could. And she did. She calmed down, and she went to bed for the night. And I kept a close eye on her. and I logged it so the next officer would know what happened and everything. But sorry, folks. When she got out of jail, she sent me a letter saying how thankful she was that I helped her. You know, and that made me feel great. Well, that's why I feel so good when you guys say that I'm helping you. But so those things caused me stress, and those things contributed to my fat. And and of course we got COVID, and all of us have an excuse with that because what else was there to do but sit home and eat? But I wanted to share that. That was a part of some traumatic experiences for me. And when I retired, I was ready for it. And I think it was the best thing for me to do, even though, I did get a pension, but I didn't get my full pension because I didn't stay the whole time. I had to stay 25 years and I didn't make it. Well, actually, I did get 20 years. I had 15 years in that jail, and then I had 5 years in the New York State prison system, correctional facility prison, or 5 years of the payroll. So I did get my 20 years, but I didn't get 25 years. And that helps me, It help. It's not a big pension, but it helps. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful I hung in there for as long as I did. But anyway, folks, that's all I want to say. And don't think that I'm not going out walking today because I'll tell you what, if it clears up, I'm going out there. Now, I won't video it, but I'm going out there to get some exercise today. And if I don't do that, I'll just do it here on my home walker, my little walker that I have, because I got to do something. I don't want to miss today. I feel fine. I slept good. I got the energy, and I plan on doing it. But I wanted to do this instead today. I wanted to tell you a little bit more about me, and hopefully it could help some of you, and especially those of you that have been in stressful jobs. And it's not just the law enforcement or medical that has these stressful jobs. I mean, you could have been in a job where you had deadlines and you're busy constantly from the day time you go in there till the time you leave, and then you have to work overtime, and then you have kids at home, and it's everybody. All that stress that we carry around with us makes us pick up food to calm ourselves down. It numbs us. There's other ways to do it, like going for a walk or taking a hot bath or having a nice cup of tea or meditating or just doing something else besides picking up that food, because that food, it numbs it, but we all know it's making it worse. It's making it worse, and then it compiles. It doesn't go away, and then you get stressed again. That's not how it works. You get stressed, and eat, and you 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 eat, and you're stressed. Anyway, folks, I love you guys. Thanks for visiting my page. Thanks to all you newcomers. I love you. I hope you hang around. I will see you all in the next one, folks. Bye.